using Mormon politicians. Like that fellow, I forget, he ran for the Republican nomination a couple of times back, Mormon senator, using them as to influence DC about some of their trade policies and that. We talked a little bit already about the role, how important the Mormons have been in the post-war American government with the MK Ultra. Okay, there he is. Russell Nelson, he's the guy. Let me just divert for a minute to talk about him. He personally raped and tortured Asia Dutson and many other children. She saw him kill children. He's a doctor, so she saw him doing experimental brain surgery on children to make them more compliant. He apparently also was responsible for the death of several top Mormon leaders. Let me just bring up this article. This is Asia Dutson speaking in an interview I did in 2019. Russell Nelson may be the prophet, but he's also known as the killer. I know someone who saw him continually rape children as young as 5. I know people who were tortured by him as children. When somebody's to be killed, Nelson's the one who schedules it, and sometimes he performs it since he's a doctor. He's performed rituals of aborting babies, killing the fetus, cutting it up and eating it, and drinking his blood, just like the Ninth Circle. I know he performed an abortion on his own niece. He's vile. He was the ringleader of the child trafficking ring in Bountiful, Utah that was busted up in the 1980s. Russell also organized and performed the murder of previous prophets so he could rise to power. I know that as a doctor, Russell organized the various stages of poisoning of the prophet Harold B. Lee in 1974, Spencer Kimball in 1985, and Howard Hunter in 1995. They were all killed in the church hospital in Salt Lake City. So that's an affidavit from Asia Dutson that's going to be in the court docket. And it shows you, I mean, this is the guy they literally worship the way a Catholic does the Pope, right? And so anyway, with that kind of influence, to be able to get away with that, I know there was 60 Minutes was planning an investigative story into the Mormon Church in Utah. There was a woman, and I spoke to her, an investigative journalist called Linda Walker, and she was shut down quicker than you can imagine because she began to uncover the fact that there had been strong ties with the presidential office going back to the 50s. Eisenhower's agricultural secretary was a Mormon. There have been Mormons in almost every cabinet. And so this is something we're not quite understanding yet, how deep the connection goes, but it's definitely tied into that cultic nature, same thing you find in the Catholic Church, right?
So what happens to whistleblowers in the Mormon Church?
Well, they usually, the same thing that happens in the Church of Rome, they vanish or they get silenced or scared off. Asia Dutson worked with me for 3 years, and then she broke it off. She went into hiding. She felt her children were being endangered, but she was a very brave woman. She came forward and named names, like the testimony you just heard, and gave me permission to use her testimony because she knows that, you know, children are going to die if she doesn't go public with this. But she did the whole gamut of being taken down into the tunnels. She said that journalists have gone missing in Salt Lake City. Everything is so controlled in Utah. You can't write anything bad about the Mormon Church in any of the media there. So this is all done, you know, like the way we do it, kind of through our own media and off the radar, right?
So do they have their own intelligence apparatus, enforcers, Opus Dei?
They don't need it. The FBI works hand in glove with them all the time. You know, and that was, and I can't quite remember. Asia told me something about that. I'd have to look it up, but close connection. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. The FBI a few years ago worked with Department of Homeland Security to look for missing people in Utah. But the reason they did that is that there was a movement starting, like ours did many years ago in Canada, grassroots movement to investigate this for themselves. So DHS comes in and goes, we're going to investigate it, but Homeland Security has no mandate to investigate missing people. FBI does, but the FBI handed it over to the Department of Homeland Security. And they come up with a report after a year. No, we didn't find anything. Kind of like, you know, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Canada. Nope, didn't find anything at all. So, I mean, that shows you the way it works, right? That's
What about?
That's the one in Rome. That's the one they got permission to build from Jorge Bergoglio. That's the Mormon temple, and it's a suburb of Rome, not downtown. But
so what's the best way to protect kids from these monsters?
We find the best way is not only public exposure, but direct action. Like I say, we've got the legal means to go in and investigate, go right into these churches and church buildings and say, this is a lawful warrant for us, the right to do that. Deputize police to do it. Some have cooperated when we've done that. That's why we were able to shut down that Ninth Circle ceremony in Montreal. And you know, make a stink. That's, you know, the smaller you are, the bigger stink you have to make, right? And so we've got a whole campaign, like it's the Native people in Canada call it banishment and reclamation, where these churches have been banished from their land because of their crimes. They have the right to go in and legally occupy them, seize their assets. When you start threatening the assets of these churches, they get scared, and their public image. Those are their two Achilles heels that we always press on, right? The fact that this court case is coming up, giving it more exposure, working with the case, or with the court in their case, to, if you have evidence of wrongdoing by the Catholic Church or this Pope, anyone in Chicago who knows anything of his history, they're being granted immunity from prosecution by the court. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned this member of the Ninth Circle who has come forward. He did that in response to the amnesty he's being offered if he speaks. And he's going to be one of the star witnesses confirming all this stuff, everything we've been saying. So public involvement, not just, I appreciate everyone buy the books, but that's step one. We need, wherever you are, it's a global enemy. You can strike at the Church of Rome wherever you are. And so we say we've got to start doing that. We showed in Canada how easy it is to get this stuff exposed once you start going onto their real estate and threatening that directly. We say to the church people, come out. Stop giving money that's committing a crime when you fund these, you know, genocidal church bodies. And so we just say it's now up to everyone listening to take action. You know how to contact me. The email is right there. Shaun's got to post it, the websites, and the proofs and what we do next. That's the only way things ever change, when people are willing to risk and take the next step. We've already broken the ice. It's relatively easy now to get involved in this movement.
Yeah, so all of Kevin's links are in the description. We got over 1,000 watching live, the books, other videos, the contact, website, etc. So please support his important work. And if you've got any questions, I know I've got backed up with questions. We'll get them to Kevin. But if you've got any further questions, keep putting them in the chat, please. I will get around to them. I'm just curious as well about the tax status of the Mormon Church. Did they just get a complete pass from the US?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny because the Catholic Church does file not income, but tax statements in America. It's the only country in the world where there's some sense of what Vatican finances are doing in America. But the Mormons don't. They haven't filed a statement of their financial involvement for many years. So how come they get to get away with it? Again, there's another connection of some tie they've got with the feds in America, right? So we don't know, frankly, except I mentioned this investment company of theirs, Ensign Peak. They do publish statements like about their $56.8 billion investment portfolio, but also at other times, Mormon leaders refer to the $100 billion slush fund they have. Okay, so $100 billion is not coming from people sitting in the pews, right?
So how do they maintain that favorable tax status? Do they have lobbyists kicking down political contributions?
Not just lobbyists, they have senators. I'm trying to remember that guy's name. Maybe somebody can send me his name. My 69-year-old mind is forgetting these things. But anyways, Senator, they don't need lobbyists because it's at a higher level. It's right in the cabinet. Like I say, they're being consistent cabinet members in the Oval Office who are being active Mormons.
So Jojo wants to know, why would the FBI work with these monsters?
Well, like I say, for one thing, their role early on in the MKUltra experimentation, they had to be protected, so naturally the FBI will. Also, they have dirt. I mean, when you have that much money, it's like the Catholic Church. You can acquire dirt on anybody. And so it's kind of a mutual blackmail thing going on, you know, and Also, just, when you're, like I said before, if you're raised in a cult, you're preordained to then be a loyal Fed, right? A loyal member of the FBI or whoever, and the CIA also recruit a lot of Mormons. So, it's like a training ground for spooks and others who are going to keep their mouths shut. They know how to. They've been programmed to.
Looks like Professor Hamamoto, and thank you, Professor, has given us a nudge here. U.S. Senator Orrin Hatch, LDS. Right. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, Latter-day Saints. Yeah, that's right. I remember his name being mentioned in. There was attempts, again, periodically Mormons try to sue the church, and they're prohibited from doing it. The state senators will bring in a law prohibiting it. You can't sue, and this is true about all the churches. You can't sue the church, only individuals within it. Just like you can't sue a nation for genocide or try them for genocide, just individuals, right? At least under their system of law. And Romney, that's his name, Romney. He was the Utah senator who ran for the Republican leadership a few times back before Donny Boy.
Can you imagine if he'd have got in, the power the Mormon church would have?
Oh, yeah.
They just completely co-opt everything. There he is. There's a picture of him. Let's get this up. Yeah, this guy.
Romney, yeah.
Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
So Nikki wants to know about the prevalence of Freemasons in the Mormon church.
Well, it's kind of like with the Catholic Church. They have a policy against Freemasonry, and yet one of the reasons they killed off John Paul I was he discovered the P2 Freemason Lodge operating right within the College of Cardinals. And so I'm sure there are, because it's like people of a secret society tend to congregate together and scratch each other's backs. But I don't know. I haven't heard anything specifically about that from our Mormon sources.
Mary wants to know, are all of the churches of the world connected to the Vatican?
Financially, absolutely they are. But also, I gave you, in the last interview, I talked about the World Council of Churches. That's the kind of the International Federation of Protestant Churches in the world. And the WCC is close in bed with the Vatican. They attend all the conferences. They've dropped the policy traditionally the Protestants had that the Church of Rome is antichrist. And, it's the policy of what they call ecumenism, where it's described as an attempt to have equality and oneness among all the religions. In fact, it's just bringing everybody into the Church of Rome, like Queen Elizabeth did it with the Holyrood Agreement in 2010, where she negotiated the terms of and violated her coronation oath by doing that, renegotiated to bring the Church of England back into the fold of Church of Rome. So in practice, yeah, there is no major church in the world that's willing to take on Rome. There's a few small churches, like, remember Ian Paisley in Northern Ireland?
Yep.
There was a great scene where Ian Paisley stood up in the European Parliament when I think it was John Paul II was speaking to them, and he held up a sign saying Pope is Antichrist, and he got mobbed and arrested and that for doing it. But the point is, there's these small churches like the Free Presbyterians in Ulster and that who say, yeah, they've held to that traditional belief that he's an imitation of Christ, designed to beguile and corrupt the human race and turn him away from Christ. And even the Pope's title confirms that, Vicari Christi, the one who replaces Christ. It's right in the title.
Mm-hmm. Benny's saying, why are the Mormons fighting the cartels in Mexico? Well, Benny, I've written extensively about the cartels, and there have been murders of Mormons in Mexico it's been put down to cartel activity. I don't know if you can add anything to that.
Well, it's like in any church. On the ground, individuals might be trying to do the right thing, but the leadership is in with all of these people who they're supposedly opposing. With that kind of investment portfolio and investing in banks like JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase, along with Trump International, launders money for the Mexican drug cartels. So why would the Mormon Church be taking on one of their business partners? So, I mean, at the institutional high level, they're all part of the same problem. But the problem is people are sitting in the pews thinking, oh, this is the church I know, just what I see on Sunday, and we're all nice people trying to do the right thing. That's how the monster keeps operating, folks.
Are Mormons Amish people?
No, the Amish were different. They come out of the what's called the Anabaptist tradition, which is in the Middle Ages, like the Hutterites, the Mennonites. They tried to live a New Testament kind of Christianity where they said, we can't pay for war, we can't lift up